there by yourself. How's everybody this morning? It's a nice morning. We don't have the...
We're going the wrong way on the temperatures, but
I agree.
No, we're going the right way in the temperatures. We're just... This week we're going back up, which is wrong. We don't want that.
anything below 30.
Well, we are ready for Judges chapter 11. So Judges 11. And so, as we talked about, there's going to be two different oppressions at the same time. And we have the oppression of, I think it's the Ammonites, that is oppressing starting first. And we're going to deal with the judge that is going to be Jephthah in chapter 11. And this is an interesting chapter. This is a chapter that brings about a lot of debate because of Jephthah's vow. And so if you've studied this, you've been through this, you've probably seen this and maybe wondered yourself what happened. We're not specifically told, but there are clues that give us the idea of what his vow really was. And we're going to talk about that as we get there. And so Jephthah is one that's remembered because of his vow. That's about really it. But then, of course, the next judge is going to be Samson, which we usually talk more about, right? So Jephthah in this chapter, remember at the end of chapter 10, the people had sinned. They had turned their lives back to God and serving him and not the Baals. They had repented of what they had done. They now have come together as an army, and they are waiting to fight the Ammonites. But they don't have a leader. And so at the end of chapter 10, they have a leader now, or they're looking for a leader, and that's what they're going to find in chapter 11. And so let's have someone read, let's see, a good spot to stop. Let's read 1 through 6 to start with.
Now Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty man of valor, and he was the son of a harlot, and Gilead begat Jephthah. And Gilead's wife bare him sons, and his wife's sons grew up, and they thrust out Jephthah, and said unto him, Thou shalt not inherit our father's house, for thou art the son of a strange woman. And Jephthah fled from his brethren, and dwelt in the land of Tob, and there were gathered vain men to Jephthah, and went out with him. And it came to pass in process of time that the children of Ammon made war against Israel. And it was so that when the children of Ammon made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to fetch Jephthah out of the land of Tob. And they said unto Jephthah, Come and be our captain, that we may fight with the children of Ammon.
All right, so verse 1 tells us Jephthah was a Gileadite. He was a mighty man of valor. Where have we heard that phrase before? It's only been said of one other judge. A mighty man of valor. Nope. It is, you said that, I don't miss his name. Oh, Gideon. Gideon. And what's interesting is in the case of Gideon, it was stated that he was a mighty man of valor before he even knew it, right? This text says he is a mighty man of valor. Really, it doesn't tell us, it's not like Gideon in the sense of he didn't know his worth, he didn't know his abilities. God had to encourage him because Gideon had a lot of doubt, right? He had a lot of issues where he wanted God to confirm what he needed to do. That's not the case with Jephthah. He was a mighty man of valor, and we're going to see that in his early life a few verses later. But Jephthah is going to be the 9th judge, and he's going to judge Israel for 6 years. And he was the son of Gilead by a harlot. So he's not one that was a part of the full bloodline of Gilead. And, of course, what's that going to do with his other siblings? Yeah, they're not going to like him. But it does seem like that Jephthah's dad did still do the right thing by taking care of his son, because if you notice, verse 2, it says, Gilead's wife bore sons, and when his wife's sons grew up, they drove Jephthah out and said to him, you shall have no inheritance in our father's house, for you're the son of another woman. So it still looks like that Jephthah's dad was taking care of Jephthah, and to the point where they all grew up and the brothers forced him away. And so Gilead's wife, sons, of course, drove him away. So he leaves, verse 2, and to verse 3 it says, then Jephthah fled from his brothers and dwelt in the land of Tob. Now, Tob, I don't know, whatever you want to say it, but we don't know where Tob is. It's believed it's around the Sea of Galilee. And so here's the Sea of Galilee. And if you look at this area, it's more likely we're talking about some of this area over here. But it's believed that it's probably closer to Damascus up here in Syria, or Assyria. No, it's Syria. And so that's where Tob's at. We don't know, but he fled to this area. And notice the wording here. In verse 3, it says, and worthless men banded together with Jephthah and went out raiding with him. Worthless men. Where have we seen that word? It's the same Hebrew word. Where have we seen this word before? Remember, Abimelech. Now, I believe there's a difference here. Because in Abimelech's case, the word being used means worthless, right? And notice what was Abimelech, his character? He was worthless himself. So he leaves and finds mercenaries, right? So this word could associate with mercenaries. The word worthless means vain or empty. The same word was used for Abimelech. But notice something here. As you read this chapter, we do not see really a change in Jephthah at all. And Jephthah starts out by talking about how he's a mighty man of valor. We get down to the first time he has interactions with his brothers, and the first thing that he says is he talks about God. So to me, as you read this chapter, you don't see him going from doing something terrible to doing something good. You see him continually really following God through his whole life. And so I really think this word means mercenaries. Now notice something here. If you're reading any other version than the New King James, it doesn't have, they went out raiding with him. What does other versions have? They went out with him. The New King James is the only version that puts raiding in it. Why? I don't know. It's italicized. Now with the King James and New King James, if it's italicized, they put that word there for emphasis. So the translators, as they were writing this, they would say, okay, well, it really fits to put this word here to make it flow better. So we're going to put it here, and we're going to italicize it to say it's not in the original. Okay? So when they're using the word worthless, they think, okay, worthless, Abimelech, he's doing the same thing. That's not the case. I don't believe that fits with his character.
Sympathizers. He found men that had the same goals as him.
I think that's the case. It doesn't tell us that he bought or paid for mercenaries, but I think it's people that were fighters that probably had some of the similar characteristics.
But my question is, who were they raiding?
They weren't raiding anybody. Because this is the only time this word is used in any description against or what he was doing, and that's in the New King James. So I don't think it's the case.
Out with him, they had to be going out to do something.
They went out to protect. Because if you notice, if you read through this chapter, Jephthah is known as someone who is very powerful or very mighty as a man of valor. And when they think about a leader to help protect us, they go right to Jephthah. And so I think he's proving, because he's up in this area, and he's fighting against and protecting the cities that are there, and he's got like men with him that are mighty, kind of like David and his men. Barb?
Okay, in my notes down below it says, Jephthah is described as the mighty man of valor, the same epithet that the angel of the Lord used to address Gideon in 6:12. Yet Jephthah was also a social outcast, the son of a harlot. He lived the life of a bandit in the land of Tob, which he was joined by worthless men. They had that
Mm-hmm.
in dark letters. This is the same phrase used to describe Abimelech's mercenaries in 9:4. He was a man without a home, a family, or a future, is what they put.
Yeah.
That's why they put raiding.
Yep. Most commentators will follow along with that and that thinking. To me, and there is a couple commentators that don't, but to me, looking at the context, you don't see any point where Jephthah goes, I'm going to, because you think raiding and being a bandit, that's going against God, right? But yet you don't see any text with him saying, I'm going to change my life. You immediately say, I'm going to talk to God. What's God want us to do? And so to me, fitting within that character, what it's stated in verse 1, I don't think that's the case. I think it's more of him. He was showing his worth by protecting some of the cities in that area with men that were like him, helping him.
They were just trying to assign to Abimelech what Abimelech did.
Yeah, they were, and that's it's tough because that word is used with Abimelech, but it also means men of similar character or mercenaries in that sense.
Could they have been raiding or being a bandit against those who were oppressing them?
Oh, that could be.
Because that wouldn't have been unlawful or sinful, I don't think, if he was protecting, because
Yeah.
that would fit, that scenario would fit with the wording of the scripture and his character, like, he was protecting the people, so, but for whoever was oppressing them, that would make him a bandit.
Yeah, I don't know, and that could be. We don't know. We're not told. All we can do is speculate, and that's what's this. I really could say this is the theme of the chapter, is speculation, because there is things stated that are not fully told to us, and all we can do is speculate, and that goes with his vow later. But I don't know. To me, fitting within his character, yeah, it could have been he was raiding, but it's weird that the New King James is the only version. I've looked at several versions. The only version that puts that in there. Even the King James doesn't, which is weird. Because usually the New King James follows along with what the King James did.
Well, the other thing is that they were, as a group, they kind of travel around, like landless men, so they're living in camps and stuff like that.
I think
They
that's
could be,
probably,
raiding the enemies or intercepting enemy raids or whatever.
yeah. I think you're right in that. He didn't have a home. He went towards Tob and went up in that area, but I don't think he had a home like he did back with his father. And so he's roaming. He's a nomad in a sense. Yeah. All right. So to looking at his character, that's what I see here is he is showing an example of one that is mighty. He is a mighty man of valor. And so as you think about it, to me, it's really difficult. It would be really difficult for his brothers who cast him out to say, well, we're looking for someone to lead us. Let's go find our brother we just cast out. There had to be a reason why they chose him, was because of his character and because of what he'd already proved. And so that brings us to verse 4. I had some quotes there, which you can read in reference to what we just talked about. But verse 4, it says, "Came to pass after the time the people of Ammon made war against Israel." So we are now seeing what is going on in what we're told in chapter 10. Okay, so a lot of this verse 1 through 3 is a beforehand of what we see at the end of chapter 10. So now everything's now within the present point of what's going on. Verse 5, "And so it was when the people of Ammon made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to get Jephthah from the land of Tob. Then they said to Jephthah, 'Come and be our commander, that we may fight against the people of Ammon.'" I have verse 7 with us. "So Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, did you not hate me and expel me from my father's house? Why have you come to me now? when you are in distress. And so they ask him, they come to him to lead. And Jephthah, he asks a good question. You would wonder, people that hated you, your own family that hated you, cast you out, they had nothing to do with you, are now coming to you and say, hey, we want you to be our leader. Jephthah's got the question. Well, why is it now you come to me? Why did you think about me? Think about it. Examples, Christ was cast out by the Jews, wasn't he? They cast him out because he was the son of a harlot, but yet, if you look at the lineage of Christ, there's a harlot in his lineage too. So just because of how Jephthah came to be did not mean that was something that he should have been treated like he was, because Rahab is in Jesus' lineage, and she became obviously someone great, not because of her past she put away, but she became someone great, and you can see that in her character when the Israelites came into that area, and she said, we know who you are, and she helped them. And so they shouldn't have done what they did. And he's asking the question, an honest question, why did you ask for me? Why are you here now? Verse 8, it says, and the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, this is why we have turned again to you now, that you may go with us and fight against the people of Ammon and be our head over the inhabitants of Gilead. And so Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, if you take me back home to fight against the people of Ammon, and the Lord delivers them to me, shall I be your head? So remember what I said. They're in the first conversation they have with him. He says, not only if you choose to let me be your head, but the Lord delivers them to me. So his mind is already on God is the one in control. God is the one that determines the outcome here. And so to me, that shows us his character already, that he's already had through this whole time.
So the elders of Gilead, that's his brothers?
That's his brothers. That's a good point. Yeah, I was going to say that, but that's right. The elders are his brothers. So Gilead.
It's been a long time between when they threw him out and now.
It doesn't tell us. I would say it's probably been a few years. I would say just for time to pass. But it's kind of like when we talked about Abimelech. And Abimelech, his home area was I'm gonna lose the name. It's on the tip of my tongue. Shechem. And it says that his brothers or his families, his uncles came to him. That's the same thing here. The elders are the brothers of, because Gilead was the father. And so he had his own city, his own area. So yeah. And so these elders or his brothers come to him, and he tells them, the first thing he says there, if you take me back to fight against him and the Lord delivers him, shall I be your head? He's asking the honest question. Are you going to make me your leader? Or are you going to make me the judge? And so verse 10, and the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, the Lord will be a witness between us if we do not do according to your words. Then Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and commander over them. And Jephthah spoke all his words before the Lord in Mizpah. Now, so Jephthah is already following God. They're following God too, aren't they? Because if you look at the end of chapter 10, what did they do? They'd repented. They had changed their ways. They had went back to God. So everybody is now on the same page. And so when he talks about the Lord, when he talks about God, they are in agreement. They're like, okay, yes, if God will do this and will make you the leader. And so he does. Let's see my notes here if I'm skipping something. No, I don't. Okay, so verse 12 says, now Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the people of Ammon, saying, what do you have against me that you have come to fight against me in my land? And the king of the people of Ammon answered the messengers of Jephthah, because Israel took away my land when they came up out of Egypt from the Arnon as far as Jabbok, into Jordan. Now therefore restore those lands peacefully. And so Jephthah, his first action is not to go and fight, but what is his first action to do? Yeah, figure out why. To me, it seems like he's trying to do this peacefully, right? He doesn't want to fight with them. He doesn't want to deal, in that sense, have to kill them and wipe them out. He wants to just deal with it peacefully. And so he sends a question and asking them, why are you wanting to fight? So the king of Ammon, he says, well, because Israel took away the land that they are living in. So what's he talking about? Well, that's this area here. See, Ammon's right here. This whole area used to be a part of Ammon's land. And when the Israelites came in, they camped and they fought against the king of Ammon and defeated them and took this land. And several of the tribes, the 3, 2, and 1 half tribe stayed as they went over. The family stayed and they came back. So that's what he's bringing up. Well, how many years is it between when that happened and now? It's 300 years. So notice what he says in the next verse. Where did I get to? 13? So 14 says, Jephthah again sent messengers to the king of the people of Ammon and said to him, thus says Jephthah, Israel did not take away the land of Moab, nor the land of the people of Ammon. For when Israel came up from Egypt, they walked through the wilderness as far as the Red Sea and came to Kadesh. Then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, please let me pass through your land. But the king of Edom would not heed. And in like manner they sent to the king of Moab, but he did not consent. So Israel remained in Kadesh. And they went along through the wilderness and bypassed the land of Edom and the land of Moab, came to the east side of the land of Moab, and camped on the other side of Arnon. But they did not enter the border of Moab, for Arnon was the border of Moab. Then Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, king of Heshbon. And Israel said to him, please let us pass through your land into our place. But Sihon did not trust Israel to pass through his territory. So Sihon gathered all his people together and camped in Jahaz and fought against Israel. And the Lord God of Israel delivered Sihon and all his people into the hand of Israel, and they defeated them. Thus Israel gained possession of all the land of the Amorites who inhabited that country. They took possession of all the territory of the Amorites, from the Arnon to the Jabbok, and from the wilderness to the Jordan. And so I read all of that because it's just a history lesson. So Jephthah starts out by saying, you've got this all wrong. We did not take the land. Who took the land? God did. Now, is the king of Ammon going to care what God thinks? No, not at all. But he's laying down the framework here, the basis here, saying, we didn't do this. It was God's will. And God wanted this to happen. And, Sihon, if they had let us come through, there wouldn't be a problem. But he didn't. The king didn't. And so Jephthah is showing him that God is the one who took him. So we can, this history that's here. Of course, that's all the way back in the book of Leviticus, Deuteronomy, in that area of when they came in Joshua, I think first part of Joshua. So it's a lot of history there, but just reaffirming what restating what has been seen before. And so that brings us to verse 23. It says, now the Lord God of Israel has disposed the Amorites before his people Israel. Should you then possess it? Will you not possess whatever Chemosh your God gives you to possess? So whatever the Lord our God takes possession of before us, we will possess. So I think it's very interesting. What is Jephthah doing here? What does he say?
He's comparing their God to the real God.
Yeah.
He's showing the difference.
Yeah. He's kind of mocking them, isn't he? He's saying, okay, well, you possess the land that Kadosh, your God, gives you. Which is what? Absolutely nothing, because he's a false God. So he's right. Kathy's right. He's comparing his God, the true God, against their false God. And so he's really kind of mocking them. And he's saying, if you want to inhabit land, you will do it. Take the land that your God gives you. Really similar to Elijah, right? Elijah was on Mount Carmel. They were trying to have their God burn the altar that was before them. And Elijah's, he's mocking them, right? He's saying, oh, maybe he's in the bathroom. Maybe he's busy. Maybe he's, all this extra stuff. And of course, it's all false. And that's what he's saying here. He's trying to bring home a point. Our God, the true God, is the one that's in control and gave us this. And so, now look at verse 25. It says, and now are you any better than Balak the son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he ever strive against Israel? Did he ever fight against them? So who is he talking about here? Who is Balak? You guys remember? Balak was a king of Ammon. This was back during the time of the Israelites coming into the land. And remember Balaam and his donkey? So Balaam was hired to come and to curse Israel, right? Well, that didn't work. The 3 times he tried to go up and to curse Israel, it never worked. God sent a spirit to him, and he prophesied of Israel instead. But what it's talking about here is that Balak never fought against them. He tried to curse them, and it didn't work. And that's what he's talking about here. And so verse 25, it says, now are you better than him? Verse 26, while Israel dwelt in Heshbon and its villages, and Ar and its villages, and all its cities along the banks of Arnon, for 300 years, why did you not recover them within that time? Good question. It's been 300 years. Why are you just now upset? It's a good question. And he's showing that they were not the aggressor. They tried to do things peacefully. And the kings of these lands that they went through were choosing to cause problems, just like he's doing now.
So, to me that sounds like he's mocking them. You've had 300 years. Why
Yeah.
didn't you do?
I fully agree with that.
So that maybe they have tried, and they just haven't. I don't know.
I don't see that.
Maybe
No.
they have tried at all.
I'm trying to remember if Ammon was a part of some of the oppressors before. But it's not really about them trying before. It's the fact that he's asking the question, why are you doing this? Why are you coming against us? And he's saying, well, we're upset because you took our land. Well, it's been 300 years. Why is it just now that your sole purpose of fighting against us is to take the land back? We've been here for 300 years, and it's ours. God has given it to us, is what he's saying. And so, yeah, I think he's mocking him. I still think he's mocking him here. So then verse 27 says, therefore I have not sinned against you, but you wronged me by fighting against me. He's showing that he's, again, just like his past leaders, those in his descendants, are his ancestors, they are the aggressor. He's trying to do things peacefully, and they don't care. He doesn't care. And so he says, may the Lord the judge render judgment this day between the children of Israel and the people of Ammon. However, the king of the people of Ammon did not heed the words which Jephthah sent him. And so Jephthah showed his desire to let God be the judge. And again, this is showing his character. Again, this is showing his dedication to God. And I believe that he has had this whole time, because you don't just immediately go back to God like this. I mean, you can, but I really think that he, this whole time, is saying, God is the one that's in control. God is the one that determines what happens. And now we're going to let God be the judge between who's right and who should have this land. And so, kind of, again, he's mocking him, right? Because he's saying, look, your God, this Kadesh, Chemosh, your God, he can give you land to possess. Our God has given us land to possess. We're going to see who wins. And of course, God's going to win in this. All right, any questions on this before we move into verse 29? All right. Let's read, I know I've been reading most of this. Let's read verse 29 through 33. Somebody want to do that?
Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah, and he passed through Gilead and Manasseh, and passed through Mizpah of Gilead. And from Mizpah of Gilead he advanced toward the people of Ammon. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord, and said, If you will indeed deliver the people of Ammon into my hands, then it will be that whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the people of Ammon, shall surely be the Lord's, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering. So Jephthah advanced toward the people of Ammon to fight against them, and the Lord delivered them into his hands. How far?
Go through 33.
And he defeated them from Aror as far as Minnith, 20 cities, and to Abel Kiramim with the very great slaughter. Thus the people of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel.
All right, let's go ahead and read through the end of the chapter. You can do it or somebody else can, whatever you guys would like. Huh?
Someone else.
I want to get all of this before we talk about it.
And Jephthah came to Mizpah and to his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and with dances, and she was his only child. Beside her he had neither son nor daughter. And it came to pass, when he saw her, that he rent his clothes and said, Alas, my daughter, thou hast brought me very low, and thou art one of them that trouble me. For I have opened my mouth unto the Lord, and I cannot go back. And she said unto him, My father, if thou hast opened thy mouth unto the Lord, do to me according to that which hath proceeded out of thy mouth. For as much as the Lord hath taken vengeance for thee of thine enemies, even of the children of Ammon. And she said unto her father, Let this thing be done for me. Let me alone 2 months, that I may go up and down upon the mountain and bewail my virginity, and I and my fellows. And he said, Go, and he sent her away for 2 months, and she went with her companions and bewailed her virginity upon the mountains. And it came to pass at the end of 2 months that she returned unto her father, who did with her according to his vow which he had vowed, and she knew no man, and it was custom in Israel that the daughters of Israel went yearly to Lamath, the daughters of Jephthah, and the Gileadite, 4 days in a year.
All right, so verse 29, it says, Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah. What does that mean? What does it mean when the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah? Okay. What has happened to every other judge before? The Spirit of the Lord came upon him. And so it doesn't state here that Jephthah was chosen to be the judge, as others have stated. And all the other chapters we've seen, all the other judges we've seen, and God chose XYZ, Gideon. God chose all these different other judges. It doesn't say that here, but it does say that the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. So that's God confirming he is now the judge. And I think it's interesting, this placement, because, Jephthah has already proven his worth, right? He's already proven that he's going to follow God. He's already proven his mightiness and valor before God chose him. I think that's interesting. And it's a little different than most of the other judges, because he already had that character and he proved it. Maybe the others did too, and they probably did, but we're just not told about their previous character before they were chosen as a judge. We're just given that point where they were chosen and then after. But I think it's interesting with Jephthah that, all of this back history is given to us before God chose him. He was already going to do what he needed to do to help his people. He was already going to do what God wanted done for his people before God even sent his Spirit upon him. And so he now is advanced towards the people of Ammon. So then verse 30, he makes a vow. So this is the very difficult or controversial part of Jephthah, is his vow. So as we've already read all of this, we kind of already get a summary. He makes a vow, and that vow is, in verse 31, whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the people of Ammon, shall surely be the Lord's, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering. So he makes this vow that when I get home, if you deliver these people into my hands, when I get home, the first thing that meets me at the door, I'm going to offer it as a burnt offering. What does that sound like?
Abraham and Isaac.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could say that, yeah. Now, Abraham didn't have to offer Isaac, thankfully.
I know,
But yeah, it does sound like that. That's true. But it sounds like he's going to offer on an altar whatever comes out of his house. No. And so, it's a rash vow, right? It's a vow. Really, the whole summary of this is a rash vow. He should not have made this vow and saying that I will offer whatever comes out of my house. He should have said, I'm going to offer an animal. I'm going to offer this as a burnt offering. Now, this is where the division happens, because it's stated that he will offer whatever comes out of his house as a burnt offering. And so people say he killed his daughter and offered her on an altar. But if you look at the rest of this text, it does not indicate that. So the controversy is that she either was killed and offered as a burnt offering, or she lived without ever being married and she was in service to God, which that fits the text more. And that's what I believe. But there's people on both sides. When we studied this in school, our instructor said, when we got to this point, he said, all right, we're stopping now. I want you to study this text with your own opinion, and you're going to come back to class next time, and we're going to talk about it. And class was divided. Commentators are divided. Some believe that she was killed and offered as a sacrifice. Some believe that she's not. And so, what was this vow? Now, there are a lot of passages against sacrificing humans in the Bible. Now, the only time that it's in positive note is what Justin said, is Abraham and Isaac and God and Christ, Father. Now, Abraham did not have to. And I don't think God ever planned on him having to offer a sacrifice. Hebrews chapter 11 tells us that Abraham had done it in his mind. He knew that if he even had to kill his son and offer him, God would raise him back up. So he went through and proved his faith. But there are so many passages. Let's read just a few of them. Leviticus 20, verse 2 through 3.
Doesn't the word Lamech mean in memory of?
No, it means just to be sorrowful or lament, grief. There we go. But it could be in a reference to someone dying. But if you look at it, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But
Go ahead where you're at.
yeah, let's look at Leviticus 20, 2 through 3. I know we're about right out of time. That's the problem. So we're not going to be able to finish all this.
Again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Moab, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. And I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from among his people, because he hath given of his seed unto Moab, to defile my sanctuary, and to profane my holy name.
All right, so that's just one example, but it's saying give that seed to Molech. That is the children being offered to Molech. That was done in the valley of Hinnom in Israel. Of course, when Jesus, which is an interesting association or connection there, when Jesus starts talking about Gehenna in the New Testament, he's talking about hell, he's referring to the valley of Gehenna, where they offered sacrifices, where there was crying and screaming that was happening because of the babies that were being murdered and offered to these gods, and the children that were being murdered. And so, Jesus is talking about the blood, the crying, the terrible things that happened down there, and he's saying that is the word that I'm going to use to describe an eternal damnation that people could go to if they do not follow him. And so, there's other verses, we're not going to read all of them, 27, 1 through 5, Leviticus, Deuteronomy 12, 31, Jeremiah 32, 35, but all of those speak against the offering up of humans, children, to gods. Huh?
Children.
Children. It's children. Usually every time it's children for some reason.
To a heathen god.
To a heathen god.
And you can't compare it. That's
Huh?
my opinion.
That's your opinion. See? I told you. There's going to be different thoughts on it. And so, But it's interesting because, Jesus uses that word in that place where they did a lot of this. And they did. Israel did do this, to say this is a terrible thing. And so the word burnt offering, it means to go up, to burn a sacrifice. It doesn't always refer to burning a sacrifice. It also is used in reference to something going up. Somebody read Numbers 8, verse 9 through 11. This was from my study when we had to do this in class. Numbers 8, 9 through 11.
Then have them take a young bull with its grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil, and you are to take a second young bull for a sin offering. Bring the Levites before the tent of meeting and assemble the whole congregation of Israel. You are to present the Levites before the Lord and have the Israelites lay their hands upon them. Aaron is to present the Levites before the Lord as a wave offering from the sons of Israel, so that they may perform the service of the Lord.
All right, so there, it's the wave offering, but it's the same thing. It's that offering. It's going to be a burned, their sacrifice. They don't just take the meat and just wave it and that's it. It's a burnt sacrifice that's happening there. And so that was to represent the Levites being dedicated to God, and what was going on there. Very similar to here. We see this New Testament practice in a sense. Somebody read Romans 12, 1 and 2.
I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God.
All right, so we are to present ourselves as living sacrifices. So it's a little different, but it's still talking about sacrificing ourselves. And so we are out of time, but I say study it. We can talk about it more so next week. And I know, I believe that she was not. I believe because the text, what it sees. And we'll talk about that more next week.
In Deuteronomy 12, 31, it says, you shall not worship the Lord your God in that way, for every abomination to the Lord that he hates that they have done to their gods, for they have burned even their sons and their daughters in the fire to their gods.
Yep.
So he's telling them that he doesn't want them worshiping him the way that the other countries were worshiping, because they were burning their sons and daughters. He does not want us to burn our sons and daughters to worship him.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what that text is saying. So I guess we should have read all the text. But yeah, but it's right. He does not want offerings done in that same way that it was done for them. 12:31. It's in your notes there. And then Jeremiah 32:35 is after they've already done this. So, but study it a little bit, and we'll talk about it some more next week. It's interesting. I know I have my opinion on it, and the text doesn't say, but there is clues that point to the fact of why I believe I do the way about this text. But there's a lot of debate. People debate this all the time, and it's not clear. This whole chapter's kind of been that way. It's not clear. So, but anyways, good discussion. We'll talk next week. Thank you.